Hello and welcome. My name is Mary McElhatton. Welcome to the Permission Mission Show. I'll be your host today. We are broadcasting live here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the WWDBTV. You can always catch us online at WWDBTV Facebook, also on Permission Mission Facebook and Mary McElhatton Facebook. And of course, all of these are tapes so that we can share them on YouTube. Today, I'm going to reach out to you and ask that to participate in some way, whether that be by being, if you're watching live, put a question in the chat line or even by calling in. It is always helpful when we're talking about what I talk about, which is Permission Mission, is normalizing the conversation of mortality. And the question this week was asked last week is, how do you want to die? This is a good question because when I ask this question, most times I get a blank stare, or even when my husband asked me, I was like, I couldn't get it out quick enough because it's a question that not many of us will ever answer ahead of time, or many in the past never had the chance to ask. If we had a choice and we could choose, how would we like to die? And that's a question that none of us want to answer, and none of us want to die. Because when I did get a few of answers back from people I reached out to, it was always the same. I want to go in my sleep. I want to not feel any pain. I want to, for me, I want a full belly with dessert because I will not count the calories for the first time. It is something that not something we just don't want to discuss. But today's show is going to be about the importance of having these conversations if we have the chance to have these conversations. And I have a true fact of somebody who did say that the way that they wanted to die actually came true. So it's kind of like, maybe pay attention to what we're putting out there. And also, if we're going to put it out there and we know that this is a day that is inevitable, why not take a chance and make sure that it's something we want versus something we don't want? So, the number here today, if you'd like to call in to ask any question while we're broadcasting live on the show, is 702 3207. Again, you're welcome to put any question on in the chat line. So, a couple more of the answers when I was reaching out to family and friends and a few strangers is asking them the question, how do you want to die? I got from my husband, I'll share that right off the bat because he was pretty funny, but he is a funny guy. So he said Thelma and Louise style. And I was like, oh boy, that's a lot of bravery. I'm not sure if I want to support that. That's a pretty scary way. But then he also said, I'd like to just go to sleep and not wake up. My sister Deb, her answer was falling asleep and waking up in heaven, because she is a very strong believer and she knows that she will be in heaven one day, and she's excited to get some work done there, as she's worked very diligent here on earth, making sure that people are aware that there is a higher power and there's someone who always has our back if you're looking for him. So my brother-in-law Alan, he's like, yeah, just put me on a boat, push me out in the water, and then take some fiery arrows and shoot the boat and let it burn. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. That looks like it might be a little fun, but I don't know. I want to certainly make sure that I'm completely dead first. Another one, favorite chair. I just want to be in my favorite chair and not wake up. I thought, I can totally relate to that because I have a favorite area on my couch that I like to hang out, watch movies, and just chill and talk with family. And, it's a comfy chair, it's a comfy space. Uh, I don't want to know was another answer that I got. And that was, I just don't want to know. I don't want to be there. I don't want to know. And I don't even want to think about it because I just don't want to ever think that I'm not going to be here on earth, especially if we have children. And I get that. I have children, I have grandchildren. I've had my husband on the show. Talking about mortality is just one of those things that the only way it's going to get easier is by practice. The only way that it's going to be something we're comfortable doing is by practice. And each week on the show, my goal is just to come up with different ways to where we can comfortably accept that mortality is inevitable. And if there is any type of chance that we can think about some things that we're doing today with the end in mind, maybe making a few adjustments so that we have a chance of going the way that we want to, or also supporting those ones who don't have a choice. I have very close friends and family who have either dealt with cancer or are going through cancer now. And I can't imagine how that is for them. But I certainly don't want them to feel alone and that they're not able to reach out and ask for help or feel like, that they're just alone in this journey when they don't have to be, because I can't imagine not having a choice as to my question today. Like, how do I want to die? I want to die with a full belly and dessert. But the truth is that not of a many of us have we won't have a choice. It will either be by accident, it will be by just simply aging gracefully, which is, I think, a lot of people's ultimate goal. It can be by uh, suicide. We've talked about that on the show. Again, I don't want anybody being afraid that this is a topic that has to be talked about, because it really doesn't make sense if a person's thinking about suicide, but yet they don't have a family that will talk about death. It doesn't make sense anymore. So, normalizing conversation again just helps us to be more comfortable and let people feel the way that they want to feel, talk about the things that they want to talk about, and also grieve the way that they need to grieve, but never ever feel like I did when I was 14 when my brother died. I literally felt that I needed to die too. And I don't know if you relate to that out there, but when you lose somebody really close to you and you lose somebody who just is there one day and then suddenly gone the next, it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. I was 14. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I literally felt like, well, if he went, I should probably go too. And I probably will go early, young. And the interesting thing is I probably did a lot of things that would support that. I mean, drinking, driving, doing stuff that I never in a million years thought would contribute to an early death. Again, we didn't talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. So, how would I even know that I was doing these things? Destruction does come after death if we're not paying attention or not feeling like we can share what's going on for us. um, I I just want that to stop and end so that if a family has a chance to heal some really hard hurts, that they choose love over loss, just like I'm choosing it. And many of the people who've come on the show, they're seeing the benefits of permission mission and how this can help them become okay with the conversation if they're having to deal with mortality in their family, or if they're going to be comfortable enough to talk about their own, so that when that day comes, we're not leaving those families just devastated with a lot of unanswered questions. So, a couple other interesting facts. So, I did do some research on how people died since 1700. So, in the 1700s, A lot of people, that was when there were a lot of food shortages. So there was a lot of starvation going on at that time. In the 1800s, it was poor living conditions, it was contaminated food and water. You'll see how far we've come, but still so far from ways that we can improve the world for better living and better lives. 1900, disease, pneumonia, tuberculosis. In the year 2000, a lot of deaths occurred from tobacco. That was when they finally realized like smoking was really cool back in the day. And I didn't smoke, but a lot of my friends did. And I remember thinking, it does look pretty sexy and pretty cool. I don't know why I didn't do it though. I think because my parents did. And I was accused of smoking all the time. And I think that's the only reason why I didn't do it. But I do think that it looked pretty cool, to be honest. But a lot of people, have suffered some major consequences by smoking. 2010, a lot of heart conditions, a lot of heart attacks, a lot of things due to the heart. There are no coincidences that my mother has had 3 heart attacks when she's lost 3 children. We've talked about that. And I think that's relatable. I think it's the hardest loss. It's the toughest one. We talked about it on the show before about people saying, your children should outlive your parents. That's simply not the case in our family. And my mom probably took it to heart that maybe she did something wrong when she didn't, and her heart suffered the consequences, or simply that her heart was just broken 3 different times. I can't imagine. That's got to be a really tough thing. In 2022, again, heart disease, COVID, and of course, cancer. But I took it a step further. I wanted to find out, like, moving forward, how are we going to die or what are the predictions? And it says in 2050, if no action is taken, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer will be the number one, the number three. I put car accidents as well in there. I know working in the largest funeral industry in the world. I know that we see a lot of car accidents, and it breaks my heart each time because I know that some of them are preventable. I know that some of them aren't because accidents do happen. And again, I'm always like, we all have permission to go. It's not about how we die, it's about when we die. But thinking about mortality ahead of time is going to give us a little bit of education or a lot of education to be able to make some choices today that can support healthier living for tomorrow. Um, so these are some ways. I'm still waiting for anyone to put a question in the chat. Please, just any question in regards to what we're talking about. Maybe you have a specific way that you want to die. Again, it's if you had the choice. That question is being asked, like, if I had the choice to go out the way that I want to go out, how would that be? You know, we don't know how we're going to go. I don't even want to know how I'm going to go. And if I can put it out there, though, that I want to go in a way that would be peaceful, that would be meaningful, that I've lived a full, long life, well, then, yeah, I want to have that chance to do that. And if it doesn't go down that way, you know what? My kids will at least know that I have spoken about mortality and I've found some peace in it, and for them to find some peace in it too. I've got a question here. Awesome. Meredith, thank you. Thank you so much for putting a question in the chat. I see it. How are you doing in regards to bridging the gap in discussing end of life with difficult clients? Oh boy, Meredith. Well, we all know that it is practice. We all know that it is helping a person feel comfortable first, meaning like we're all in it together. And basically, bridging that gap is just taking all the gray area out of it. We live and then we die, And everything in between really is just the life story of however many years or days or hours that we get. So I keep them focused on the comfort of the conversation, answering any questions that they do have, meaning, and there's no wrong question, there's no wrong answer. And that is really just the best way, is making them feel confident that this is something important, and confident that this is something that they can do while they can. Because I share on the other side, when someone's having to be forced to come through our locations, they don't have a choice at that time. They don't have sometimes resources or money, or the fact that they don't have emotional support. And by opening up the, bridging the gap of not talking about death to now talking about it, I don't think anyone will ever have to feel alone again, because we're openly talking and we're discussing. I hope that answers your question, Meredith. I appreciate it. And I've got one question here at the studio.
Uh, I have a question.
Yes, John.
If you had, if you could live forever, would you want to?
If I could live forever, would I want to? You're asking the right person because I believe I have very strong faith, and I do believe I'm going to heaven. I truly believe that a part of me will always be here. When you think about leaving and you have children, well, they are from me. So there's a part of me that's still with them. They have children. So there's even a part that goes to them that goes to my grandchildren. So I tell you, I'm just at children and grandchildren. My mother is at children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren. So, John, good question. I wouldn't want to physically live forever. No, not a chance.
I don't think, given the choice, I don't think most people would.
I don't think so either, because it's a bit much
Yeah.
dealing with this world on a daily basis. It gets to be tough some days. And I can't imagine when I sat before a 104-year-old person to pre-plan them, I did have to chuckle. I said, why now? Like, you're 104, like, this is awesome. And this person said, well, I've been stressing about it since I was 100, so I better get it done. I think that's a lot to think about in 104 years, what you have witnessed, how your heart has been full of joy, but also full of sorrow. And then the fact that the body physically, like, it's not meant to last forever. So I'm more about the soul lasting forever, the spirit lasting forever, and also leaving some great wisdom and a legacy that can outlast our physical body life for sure. So, great question. I got another question here from John.
I think part of it is too that um, we don't know for sure. I mean, the population in general don't know for sure. We think that that's the end. I mean,
When we pass?
yeah, we think that's it.
Sure.
It's all over. I mean, there are, yeah, people of faith. I understand that, but there are just too many people that just say, well, nope, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
It's all over. And it's the concept of like just going from one room to another, or one place to another. I think because I know the Eastern philosophies and religion believe in reincarnation, and you just cycle through this and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
you know,
That's a great show, John. You bring up a great point, as far as a lot of people maybe, not wanting to talk about death is because they don't really know what happens after. And that would be a great show for us to openly talk about, because,
be happy to.
I mean, my goodness, we would never know unless we go to that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's like the discussions of mortality. We would never know what a person's wishes are if we don't openly talk about it. We would never have the chance to leave a family feeling much better about having permission for each other to pass than to strictly leave this silent. Because that's how it felt when my brother died. I just could not wrap my mind around the fact that I had heard about death, but I never had it happen here. And that made no sense to me that there was no discussion. And I'm a logical person, um, which I think, when logically you talk about this, it doesn't make any more sense to never talk about it again.
Right.
So, Meredith, I prefer to live as full of a life as possible for as long as God allows. I would prefer to move gracefully to the heaven when the time comes. Awesome. Yes, Meredith. I mean, that's the cool part of just accepting that I have a great life here, no matter how difficult at times it gets, but I'll be good and ready to go when the time that God calls me. And I think that's peace. Somebody did ask me a great, great question. They said, how do you find peace with somebody you love who's already how do you accept the loss of somebody you love so much that you never had this talk? And I said, well, they're wanting peace too. They are wanting to find the peace so that we find the peace. And I think it's us finding the peace to be able to give them. And I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't have peace with my brother's passing for many, many, many years. I did not accept it. I was angry about it. I was hurt about it. It made me very angry. And then when I started working with, other people's loss and realizing like it is something that is that's happening, that's going to happen. There's just no way to get out of it. It started helping me see that if I can find some peace that we're all in this together and peace in the talking part of it, in the accepting part of it, I really feel a peace from my brothers. It is the weirdest thing. I never expected that to happen, but that has happened over the years of practicing, accepting, acknowledging, preparing, planning, having thoughts about how I want to die, and not being afraid of it. People teach me. We had a wonderful guest on the show, Troy, who's dealing with the cancer journey. And I'll tell you, like, his boldness and his braveness and his willingness to come on the show and just openly talk about things that are important to him and ways that he can make sure that his family is safe and taking a stand. I told him, you drew a line in the sand saying that every partner, every couple needs to have this conversation ahead of time, because it's not fair to leave the other one left out. Not when you're I mean, we talked and I'm like, we as couples, we like do lots of crazy things. Like, we are intimate together, okay, you guys, like that's it. But we won't have this discussion. That makes no sense. And we both discussed, we're talking about that, like we'll make love to somebody we love so much, but we won't even talk to them about the most important day that's going to happen. And that's ultimate love, is being able to really say, look, if something happens to me, I want to make sure that you're okay, or vice versa. And that was so special to be able to have that, uh, to have him draw a line in the sand and make sure that couples talk openly about what their wishes are, or making sure that one's not left in the dust with a lot of things to handle. So, we're going to take a quick break. I need to catch my breath. We're going to go to a commercial, so stay tuned. Again, if you have those questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to be able to answer those with you on the show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhat, and I'm your host today. Thank you for joining, and I appreciate you hanging in here with me to talk about a tough topic, which is mortality. That's what the Permission Mission is: a open platform, a broadcasting live show every week to practice talking about mortality so that we can enrich our lives today, bring some peace to those who have passed on before us, and also bring peace to those who will pass, where we will pass one day, and not leave our families in such shambles, and not have this important conversation while we can, because it does make a difference. I can tell you just firsthand how much it makes a difference. Listening to other shows, I shared about losing my family, losing three siblings, not having anything prepared, not having any conversation. And then my father got sick. We spent the time with him. I had very hard days, but it was a beautiful experience when it finally came to an end to have his service. He had everything planned out. He had shared things he liked in life. He had shared things, he had messages for his kids, his grandkids, his great grandkids, even those who are still not born yet. It is something most of us do not want to talk about. I get it. I didn't for a long time either, until I had the opportunity to see how much value there is in passing, and also how much value there is in living. The two go hand in hand, they don't separate. There was another Meredith. You are on a roll here. I love it. The questions are coming in. Bob and I have had our first discussion about death, preparing for end of life, and our thoughts and beliefs on our third date. Awesome. You
That's
know,
an icebreaker.
that is an icebreaker, and that also is I think, a deal breaker for the goodness of a relationship. I watched a show, uh, and on it was a relationship show, and it was to see which couples would stay married. So they had to do certain things. It's been a while ago, but the bottom line of it was is that this one couple out of like 10 couples, they went to the funeral home. They talked about their pre-planning wishes and what they would do at the end, and they were the couple that actually won the contest. So, Meredith, I totally get what you're saying. You and Bob talking ahead of time about this really does relieve the pressure for that one day when it happens. Because just imagine it just happening again, nobody having any direction, nobody having any plans. At that time, we don't get to properly grieve because now we're going to work and dealing with all the logistics, all of closing out our affairs, figuring out how life's going to move forward with that person not there. It's a lot involved. But when we take the step today, openly say, these are my wishes. This is what's important to me. And I want you to know I think that it certainly gives a feeling to me that I've done the right thing as a mother, as a daughter, as a grandmother, as a wife. And then also on the other side, I think they're going to feel a little bit more okay. Not doesn't erase the hurt or the pain of losing somebody, but I do believe that they'll feel a little bit more prepared and feel a sense of peace knowing that we really did talk about this. I talk about it all the time, you guys. I think sometimes people think that my life is dark and dreary and depressing and morbid. And I wish you could come in and just see that I too have problems every day. Having mortality at the forefront of my mind, though, I say sorry quicker. I get out of bed sooner, I make things happen, and I make amends quickly. I'm the first to make sure that you're safer on the road because I'm looking out for you. Today was a rainy day on the road. Fortunately, it was great because I didn't see any accidents this morning. People are taking more time to make room for one another on the roads. And that's how, moving forward, we are going to see that maybe the natural way of passing away is going to come back, because today is more unnatural ways of how we're passing. It's not anybody's fault. I think it just simply got lost in the mix, and it is true. I mean, talk about death, it's like, I don't wanna deal with that. I don't wanna think about that. It makes me think about other stuff. Well, short time a day, just a little bit of time each day does make a difference way in the future. So, I always want to make sure that I'm going over my 5-second rule. And then I've got just a short story to close out us for the day, this show. The 5-second rule is favor inside. Favor. I matter, you matter, favor inside, whether it's selecting a different choice of not going to McDonald's every single day, maybe making a home cooked healthy meal at home will make the difference. I'm not asking anyone, because I'm not that person either where I'm 100% healthy. No, but I'm about 90% because of this 5-second rule. Value you, value everyone, and value everything, because it will bring some joy to your life. It also will help you to not get so angry and stressed out. I tell you, stress is what's hurting our hearts and making us pass away sooner. We don't need to be stressed out. It's not ever going to go away, but there are some little simple tips. And the 5-second rule is a very simple tip to just remind yourself every day to take care of yourself, value everyone and everything. We have this one short time on earth, and it's your earth, and it's your home, and it's my home. And it's just figuring out ways to improve it while we can, ways to make it better while we can, and also enjoy it while we can. I still do get mad. I still do stress out. I don't as much as I did before working in the industry of a funeral home for 10 years, because those little throwaway words like, life is short, they're big words today. They mean something today. And I want to make sure that they mean something to you today too, because we are not guaranteed tomorrow. That's another word. I think it's just used. The word love, love is all those things: patient, kind, willing. Love is forgiveness. It's let's keep holding on to those words, because they'll make a difference, and you'll feel better. The other person will feel better. And before we know it, we've got a little bit, maybe I don't know, maybe it's equivalent to an extra day of your life. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I cannot foresee the future, but all I have is today. And if we just remember that we're cool people living in a big world with lots of problems, let's stay on some solutions. So I'm going to end with a very powerful story. So I talk about my brother. My brother passed away in 1981 on a motorcycle. My brother had said several times that he would, if he were to go, that this would be the way that he'd want to go out. And I'll tell you, it never meant much then. Of course, I didn't even hear it, but I remember listening to it. But I was talking with my older sister today, and she said, he always, that's how he wanted to go. And I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful to bring that up on the show today, because he did. He wanted to go on his motorcycle. He was happiest on his motorcycle. I know for a fact that wouldn't have been what he wanted for his daughter or his wife at that time. But the truth is, motorcycles are dangerous. And sometimes those accidents happen and they do claim our loved ones or our life. So I thought that was very important to share of why I brought up the question of how do you want to die? Maybe think about that for today and moving forward, because he had said it that if that was how he wanted to go, that's how he was going to go. Or if he was going to die, that would be the way that he would want to go. And he did. And it was hard for all of us. But I know that I know that that's what he wanted. So when people get what they want, I don't know, there's some peace in that. And we find peace in it today. And I'm always just so proud to be from a large family. Um, but the question of, gosh, dang it, we're going to have to go through a few more losses, uh, isn't fun to think about. But today, it's okay because we can and we are. And with your help, we are boldly, proudly, and bravely opening up a conversation that all of us cannot live without. You cannot live without the conversation of mortality because it happens all the time. Yes, John, we got another question.
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Sure.
When you ask people that question, how do you want to die? Do you find that a large number of them or most of them joke about it first before they get serious, and
Yeah,
just kind of get some funny stuff because they don't want to deal with it?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a protective thing.
right.
It's a mechanism to protect our heart because it does, when you really think about it, it hurts. There's a part of us that is like, ooh, I don't want to think about that. And if we do, though, it's like, oh, I wanted to go on this trip on a cruise, or I wanted to go to Australia, or I have a friend that I didn't say sorry to, or uh, it helps us really think differently about now.
It takes the stress out of it, I think.
Certainly.
Yeah, it still hurts when we have, when we lose loved ones or we know we're going, but I think it takes the stress off of, oh no, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or that it's the elephant.
yeah,
Only the elephant is as big as the world,
yeah,
guys. It's not in this room. The elephant, if you can imagine taking 8 billion people, that's how big the elephant is. Because for us who lose somebody young, like I did at 14, it was always on my shoulders, reminding me that I will go one day too. So when I released it and said, look, I've addressed it and I have my prearrangements and I have things in place, it doesn't have control over me anymore. And that's what it'll do for you. Some of the benefits I really wanted to just quickly go over a couple of the benefits of talking about mortality on a day to day basis with your family. It will increase energy. I promise you that. It takes the weight off. Like I said, many of us have it already on our shoulders. We see mortality more than ever in social media, it is everywhere. And we have children watching this, and they are not equipped to be able to deal with some of the ways that people are passing. So please think of them, talk about it so that they are somewhat prepared that death is a reality for them as well as other people. It will bring a closeness and understanding. I'm closer to my husband now than I ever have been, and also to my family, my kids, my grandkids. It'll bring urgency. You want to write that book? Start it today. You want to take that trip? Start it today. You want to adopt a child? Get the process going today. You want to go and fall in love? There's 8 billion people in the world. I'm certain you'll find someone that will love you back.
yeah.
Uh, if you do something and it feels wrong, stop doing it. Just stop doing it. It's not worth it. If you have an issue health wise, get to the doctor. Call a friend to take you. Uh, Also, choose love over loss. That was shared by my daughter on last week's show about grudges. I choose love over loss. I like that. Take more risk. Get out and take a risk today. Call the person you haven't talked to in a while, a family member. It's not worth it to keep that stress on you, knowing that one day they're going to go and you're going to go. There's no need to keep holding on to it. Just call and say hi. That's the best way to start a conversation is hi. If they hang up on you, that's okay. That's on them, but at least you attempted and that stress will relieve off of you. Ask for help. It becomes easier when you do talk about mortality and you think about it and the realness of it. You want to ask for help. It doesn't, we've been brought up in a world that says you don't need help. You're weak if you need help. That's not the truth. Uh, Troy, again, when he was on the show, he said, I have learned that I don't want to be alone in this. And I have had more people reach out to me because I was honest and open about my journey. And that's beautiful. I saw how someone's asking for help and not feeling bad about it. Trust the process because we do only live once. Again, like I said, try living without it. It's not going to work. It's always going to pop up somewhere, somehow, and someday. So let's make sure that we're talking together so that we don't ever feel alone in this world because nobody deserves to feel alone, especially when it comes to planning out our special day. My name is Mary McElhatton. We produce this show live every Friday at the WWDBTV. You are welcome to share it off of YouTube with other friends and family. Please go in there. If you have any remarks, I would appreciate the remarks. I like responding back to the remarks. If you want to talk with me one on one, I have my website, permissionmission.com. It allows you to go in there and just contact me directly. I'd certainly like to have an open discussion with you. And just again, if you have an idea for the show, I want you to bring it here to us. Our next week's show is going to be very powerful. We are talking about admitting to mistakes. Admitting to mistakes. I'll be the first to admit to my mistake. And no, I won't. We try to protect those things just like we do the conversation of mortality. But we are going to have some fun with it. We got a couple people that I'll be reaching out to. Again, I know some mistakes they've made. They've been openly about it, openly sharing about it. And until next week, my name's Mary McElhatton with Permission Mission. We will talk to you then next week. Thank you.